start the recording here, and then I'll just be a minute or so while I'm looking for something to talk about.
Sweet.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming.
Let's get a move on.
Stop the payload.
And then what SR was this game at?
2280-ish.
2280. All right.
Assistance will be appreciated.
Oh, excuse me.
All right.
You're welcome. Dein Schutzengel ist da.
All right, so maybe one thing I'm noticing right off the bat is that we're kind of all over the place with our target focus. So, you know,
Yeah.
we'll start it up here, and then let's just kind of watch through. And I'm just gonna call out when every time we're looking at somebody different, like where we're looking at someone else. So here we come out, we're looking at Moira, then we swap to Diva, and then we swap to Roadhog, right? And we're looking at Roadhog, and then we swap back and we look at Mercy, and now we're on McCree, right? And then now we're swapping to Hanzo, and then now we're still on Hanzo, and then we swap it up to Hog, now we're on Mercy, now we're on Hanzo, now we're on McCree, right? So just right off the bat, you see it's just all over the place, right? It's on a bunch of different
Yeah.
things. It's not really centralized or focused at all. And you're gonna notice, like, it's kind of the exact same concept as we were just talking about before, on as like, you know, not spreading your playtime too thin. For for the recording, that was I wasn't recording that part, but in any case, right? Essentially, when we're putting all of our damage into one thing or two things or three things, that means that we're condensing it so that we're actually killing the thing. When we're only hitting them once and then looking at something else and then hitting them once and looking and then doing that like 10 times very, very fast in a succession, that means nothing's going to die. We're just putting a little bit of tickle damage into things, and we're never
Yeah.
securing a kill. When we focus on something and we secure that kill, now they're not going to be able to heal, they're not going to be able to get away, they're not going to be able to use movement abilities or tanking or just escape you. You're getting the kill, right? So we just want to make sure we're not
Yeah.
all over the place, but we're actually, you know, focusing down something. The one time we get a kill is when we actually stuck on the McCree for a little bit longer than, you know, 1 second. Right?
Yeah.
And then we're to the Moira, and then the Hanzo, and then we're swapping it up again, looking for something else. And now we're on the Mercy, and then on the Hanzo, and then back on the McCree. Right? It's just again, it's just kind of thing. And I'm not to say that you. That's not to say that you never ever swap targets, right? Because there's going to be situations where you swap targets, right? You swap
Yeah.
targets when there's a better target to swap to, right? Than the thing you're shooting at. So someone else is lower, somebody is out of position, right? You have an opportunity to shoot at somebody. Maybe they escape and you're shooting at someone else, right? Maybe this is the thing your team's focus firing, right? So it's just, you know, there's gonna be other situations where you do that, but it shouldn't be this often, this consistently.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I did not mean to do that.
What was our number again? We were F4. It's dumb. They made a change where you can't click on the thing anymore. You have to
Oh,
press the F button. I don't like it.
that's annoying. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, we just want to make sure you can't stand on that thing. So don't try to. Oh, that's unfortunate. All right. So now you know, map. You can't stand on this map.
Yeah. Yeah, in this game and a few others, I feel like I just make a lot of really stupid mistakes,
Mm,
and it just really messes me up.
yeah.
Heroes never die.
All right. So we got the Diva automech. All right. Now we're getting into, now that I'm actually seeing a shoot at stuff and we're starting to see some other things develop. I'm gonna slow it down a little bit here once you start shooting at the Hog, just so you can see how our aim is working. So we're gonna shoot
Yeah.
at the Diva a little bit, right? And then look at how we shoot at Hog. So we're going to look at the Hog, right? And we're going to go down and up, down and up, down and up, down and up. Right, and that just kind of is repeating, where we're constantly aiming down, looking up, aiming down, looking up, right? So this
Yeah.
is not a very effective aim style, as the more you're having to adjust, right? The harder the shot is to hit. So essentially, every single time we're making it unnecessarily hard on ourselves, right? So we're 2 minutes in here. Let me just go to training range so you can visualize this while I'm going. So what we want to be doing, instead of flicking every single shot that we're making, is we want to instead just keep our crosshair dead on their head, right? The first shot can be a flick, right, where we're going like, oh, acquire target, right? Now, once we're on him, we're staying on him, right? Rather than, going down and then flicking up, going down and
Yeah.
flicking up, right? This is,
Yeah, I
instead
have
of
a
doing this,
bad
right?
habit of that.
Exactly, right. So we want to get that out of the way. Why don't we just, while we're on this topic, just go over crosshair placement anyways, because this kind of feeds well into that. Is rather
Yeah.
than doing this, we want to just keep it constantly at head level, right? So
Yeah.
that's called crosshair placement. This is just making sure we're aiming at head level. Obviously, headshots do a whole lot more damage than body shots, and you can be killing things a lot better when you're hitting headshots, right? We just talked, it's kind of killing things faster is going to be better, right? So we
Yeah.
want to make sure that we're aiming at head level, and aiming here is just going to make those shots the easiest to hit, and but every time we adjust away, it's making it more unnecessarily difficult on ourselves. Now,
Yeah.
this also is just going to change. Let's just say we're spamming down a corridor, spamming into a shield, shooting at people. All our default shots are going to be body level, but if we're aiming at head level, we're turning this corner, shooting at shields. All our default shots are now at head level, right? So if we're aiming there,
Yeah.
so it's kind of similar thing here, right? Crosshair placement is also aiming across there where we know people are going to be. So if there's somebody top left, we're pre-aiming at head level right outside the doorway. So when they come out, it's a very easy shot to hit, right? He's top left here,
Right.
so we're aiming head level, turn the corner, we're already aiming at his head, right? These guys are on a little bit of a slope, so the same way on a Torbjorn we'd aim down, and on a tank we'd aim up. Here we're going to aim down a little bit, so when we turn the corner, we're already aiming at his head, right? That way the shots become a lot easier to hit, and we're not making it unnecessarily harder on ourselves.
Okay.
Alright, so we were just on watch point.
Arriving at watch point ready.
Alright, I think this after we just walked back.
Heroes never die.
Hold up now.
Yeah, I feel like that's why I missed a lot of shots on the baby diva as well, because I was flicking too much.
Yep. Yeah, it's also looking like the other thing with her flicking aim style. I should have just stated that I didn't realize that we'd kind of, besides just the up and down, that we'd constantly just be flicking. Otherwise I would have stayed in practice range there. But when it comes to flicking, it's not a super consistent aim style, and you're gonna find that there are situations where flicking is necessary, and situations where flicking actually becomes detriment, or not. Kind of the same thing as we talked about before, inconsistent and not very easy to replicate. So
Yeah.
situations where flicking is necessary, right? So flicking is necessary on fast-moving targets, right? So flicking, by definition, is anytime your crosshair has to move a very large amount of space very fast, right? So
Yeah.
if there's a tracer on top of us and we need to go bang, right, flick around, right, that's where flicking is necessary. When someone sneaks
Yeah.
up behind us, right, that's when we have to go bang, like flick around real quick, right? Because
Yeah.
we need to turn our crosshairs to travel very fast distance very fast, right? We can also flick when we're just acquiring a new target. So for example, let's say like we're aiming at the baby diva, and then she goes around the corner, and then all of a sudden someone pops up on the top left high ground, right? We have to flick to adjust up into the person. But once we're on top of them, we're not going to want to flick, because it's just going to make the shots harder to hit unnecessarily, like we were just talking about. So we want to make sure that we're flicking when it's necessary, not flicking when it's not necessary. So just in normal everyday aiming situations, you're going to be better off just tracking and using crosshair placement and flicking when it is going to become necessary.
Yeah.
Fire at will.
You should join my
It's
Schutzengel ist da.
Alright. Yep, pretty decent high noon. Make sure when we're sitting at 100 HP, we don't want to be sitting there very long. So we want to make efforts to not sit at 100 HP by first off pressing I need healing. But then you also have two other things after that. I need healing is going to be a really good habit to get into, to press that button, because it's going to let your supports know what character you are, where on the map you are. It's going to get you healing faster. The other thing though is that we have to go kind of seek out our supports if they're nowhere near us, which in this case they are nowhere near us. So coming over to the right side might get us healing for Mercy, or we can also look for health packs, which again on this right side there's a health pack, but I think Diva's about to get it. So yes, going over this right side is a good idea, but we probably shouldn't be. Just here, you're gonna notice that we just kind of keep peeking. We're not shooting, and then now we're just gonna constantly stay at 100 HP, and then we're gonna run all the way around for the health pack, which we probably could have avoided if we just peeked for the Mercy
Yeah.
to fly to us.
Yeah.
Much better.
All right, and then there we just, because we did that, we just kind of put ourselves out of the fight. So that wasn't necessarily a lost fight in particular. Like, so right here, we have, I guess we're down 2 people. We have 4 people, but they also are down a couple people, so it's a 4v4 at the moment. Now,
Right.
now they do have a pretty big advantage, and we do have Zarya falling off, but I don't think this is necessarily a situation where we have to like fully back up. But
Yeah.
we do fully back up. We can maybe like poke from the high ground if we just got Mercy healing, but now we should, because we're down those guys. But then even here again, we're down we have 4 people, but then we're backing up, and then now this situation, now we're down a bunch of people. We should probably should be back, but okay. So there the aggression was kind of out of whack. So we backed up when we maybe could have been in there, but then as soon as that was like a lost fight, then we went in, and then at that point we probably should not have gone in, because then that resulted, and then we tried to escape right after that, and then what that did was it staggered us, right? So staggering, are you
Yeah.
familiar with that term?
Yeah.
Yep. So we just obviously don't want to be staggering ourselves, and then that did stagger us because we went in, they tried to get back out. So make sure when it's a lost fight, they were trying to get out. Or
Yeah.
if we know that we can't, just let them kill you.
Helden shall not end.
And good positioning up here, I like it. Though once we get shot by the Hanzo, we might want to just, drop here, right? Or like request healing from the Zenyatta so we can turn up around and heal us. Just again,
Yeah.
not sitting at 100 HP. Alright, and then that is a lost fight. So we're just kind of chilling here. So I think we're going to have to talk about staggering. Okay, so we're going to have to talk about staggering. So how to, I think it's hard to say, but I think maybe we're understanding how to tell whether or not a fight's won or lost. But just in case, we'll go over it anyways.
Yeah.
Here, just so you understand, when is a fight won, when is it lost, and what should you do when it's won or lost, right? So
Right.
a fight is you have an advantage, right? And it's also all going to come down to watching kill feed, right? Paying attention to the top right corner of our screen. When we are up 1 to 2 people, that is an advantage. When we have an advantage, we can play more aggressively because they have less people to shoot at us, right? And that means that we can afford to get more aggressive. When we are up 2 to 3, that is a 1 fight. When we have won a fight, we can play super aggressive to go stagger the enemy team, to get ult charge, and to take better positioning. And then at that point, we don't want to use ults, and that's pretty much it, right? Now, this also goes the exact opposite way. When we are down 1 to 2 people, that is a disadvantage. Now, we didn't lose the fight yet, so we don't necessarily have to go, all the way back up all the way to spawn, but, we are losing the fight, so we might want to play a little bit more passive. Now, when we're down 2 to 3, that is a lost fight. At that point, you don't want to use ults, and you also want to look to, and this is the key part here, because this has been a couple fights in a row, when we have lost a fight, we want to look to get out if possible, or if you cannot get out, let them kill you. Anything in
Right.
between is us staggering ourselves, and just as a reiteration, because you say you know it, but I just like to reiterate here, staggering is just wasting time for our team. When we die
Yeah.
late, it's just dying late, and when we die late, our team has 2 choices. Either they can wait for us, in which case we've wasted a bunch of time, or they can just walk out of spawn without us, like with Reinhardt's doing or whatever, like, and then that might result in more staggering, and our team just kind of does the stagger train, where we stagger, then Reinhardt staggers, and people walk out, and then they stagger, right? Which we don't want
Yeah.
to happen, right? Waste a lot of time. So this has happened twice in a row. In that situation, when you were like 80 HP and like all the way up in their on the top, you might want to just like run into them and let them kill you.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it happens a lot in this game as well.
All right. So you play
Not
Hanzo
paying
here.
attention, but yeah.
Yeah, on Fiverr you play Genji, Tracer, Ash, McCree. Is Hanzo like just a side character you play a little bit, like once in a while?
I play kind of everything, to be honest, but those are the kind of the ones I want to improve at.
All right, so then why don't we just like, again, getting into the exact same thing we talked about beforehand. But again, this isn't something that was recorded, but this part will be when you try to play everything. that means that you're spreading your playtime thin a lot, right? So let's say
Yeah.
let's just say as a hypothetical number, let's say you have 6 different characters that you play like equally, right? And you have
Yeah.
600 hours of gameplay. If you put 100 hours on each character, that's you only have 100 hours. But let's say you cut out some of those and you have 3 characters you play. Well, now you've doubled your time that you have played, and you have 200 hours on each. And let's say you take
Yeah.
out one more, and you have 2 characters. Well, now you've tripled the amount of time they have played, and then therefore you have a lot more experience on those characters, and therefore you're going to be climbing in rank when you have more experience on the characters. Every single character in the game has different abilities, different ultimates. They're going to have different positioning and different, play styles and how they're and the different things that they have to be aware of, right? So every
Yeah.
character plays differently, and when you're spreading yourself too thin between a lot of them, on top of spreading yourself thin across multiple different accounts, right? That's going to be a real issue, and that can impact your ability to climb at all if you're not practicing a couple things in particular. So my recommendation is usually 2 to 3 characters. Is a pretty good number. Now, if you're flex, like if you like to flex, it can be a little bit more than that. And I'm not saying that you can never flex. It's like it's kind of the same thing as I said before with the accounts. Is you can play those other characters if you feel like you're being countered, or you feel like
Yeah.
that character would just be really really good in that scenario, or you just feel like having fun and playing a different character. Feel free to do it, but it should mainly be focusing at the very least on certain characters instead of spreading yourself out too thin.
Okay.
Greetings.
Where was it all? Defense matrix activated.
Fire at will.
See
Heroes
through the
never
dragons.
Uh-oh. Yeah, so it looks like just general mechanics is needing a bit of work. Just across a couple different characters here, though that's going to be you'll notice that's, and we'll probably get into some more things that'll affect our mechanics here, but just practicing cross replacement and as well as not swapping targets constantly is going to help you practice it a little bit more. But then also just make sure that you're focusing and putting attention into your aim to make sure we're hitting shots like that.
Yeah.
And also, it's not going to help if you don't have a ton of experience on it. Like if you're just kind of picking up Hanzo as a side character, like that's one of the problems, is that when it's a specific aim style, as it's a unique
Yeah.
projectile, so you have to kind of get used to his projectile. And if you don't play him, then it's going to be a little bit tough to pick up, right? If you just have a couple hours on him. Okay, I like that we're using Sonic pretty frequently there. That's good. Okay, it doesn't seem like we noticed that D.Va died, because we peeked back there.
See that
Yeah.
which is unseen. The dragon stirs within me.
I have my piece of cake.
Alright, so, let's see. I'm trying to think here. I'm gonna watch a little bit more, but I think I might have something on my mind to go over here in a minute.
Okay.
Um,
I am restored.
Alright, so we escaped. Make sure it seems like we are kind of caught off guard by the fact that they had a monkey in the first place, which comes
Yeah.
down to making sure we're watching, our being aware of our environment. So this comes down to the awareness category, and basically we want to pay attention to team compositions, because team comp dictates play style. When our team is on different characters and their team is on different characters, every single character is gonna play. Is gonna be changing how we play. When they're on a monkey, we have to be aware of the fact that they're on a monkey, so we're not getting dove and being off on our own. Which means that it's a good habit that it would be to get into is in between every single fight, press tab and take a look at their comp. Right, this is going to give you some information from who's alive, who's dead, to what ults does your team have, and then also one of the big ones is, did they swap any characters, or did our team swap any characters that I'm not aware of? And then that's going to allow us to be more aware, and then therefore not almost die to a monkey who's diving us, right?
See through
Yeah.
the dragons.
Really nice.
Greetings. Nerf this. Get you patched up.
Uh.
All right.
Greetings.
So here, yeah, that's a hard one. Though after we see that it's up top here, I guess we have a couple different options. We can just first off notice the fact that we have a Reinhardt right here. We also run under it this way. So I think like we kind of saw it and then reacted slightly slowly to the fact that it's up there. Right?
Yeah.
But size are not a ton.
Kind of looked at it and I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Alright, I like our Sonic usage, and our Storm Arrow usage have actually been looking pretty solid. And then our Flashbang and Roll usage have been looking solid as well. Alright, so we're going to talk about some stuff. Yeah, so we're at 6 minutes and 20 seconds. We're going to talk about some Hanzo range. Now this range is pretty similar on McCree, so this stuff I'm about to talk about is pretty similar on McCree, so just you can kind of translate it to that. But keep in mind that Hanzo is a mid-range character with his positioning. So McCree would be like 15 meters to 30 meters, roughly, is where he prefers. Hanzo can be a little bit further away. I'd probably say Hanzo is maybe like 15 meters or maybe like 20 meters. Yeah, I'd probably say like kind of yeah, like 15 meters, and then maybe we'll say like 35 or something like that, roughly that range. He's a mid-range character, and there's a couple of different reasons for that, right? First off, he doesn't prefer close ranges because it's just other characters who do close range better than he can. Same thing with McCree. They can 100% play close range because you can one-shot the same here, but it's just not as efficient as, let's say, like a Reaper or a Mei or Reinhardt or Brig, right? Those characters just can melt us a little bit better from that range. So we probably want to be a little bit further back, right? And then secondly, long range, right? Don't prefer to be at this range. Now, McCree, you have what you call fall-off damage, which means that you actually take less damage or you deal less damage the further away you are, which is a big thing. But what Hanzo, he doesn't have that. I can one shot from back here, but the issue at long range is that it's very difficult to hit shots at this range, right? Because it's a very small target. It's much harder to hit that small target than it is to hit. Oh, he ran away from me. But it's much harder to hit that than this right here, right? Where these guys are a lot closer, a lot easier to hit, right? Just because it's a small target. Now that changes on like a character like Widowmaker because she has a scope which zooms in, and she has a lowered sensitivity, which makes her more accurate. But on Hanzo, you don't have that, and therefore it's going to be pretty difficult, right, to effectively do the things, like, hit shots. So we prefer, whenever possible, this medium range, which a couple times on, like, on the game we were just saying, we were positioning ourselves a little bit too far, especially on Hanzo. I didn't notice it too much with McCree, but on Hanzo especially, or at least on McCree I'll notice it maybe a little bit, but on Hanzo especially was the big one where we just kind of were standing real far back, like we were like a Widowmaker, when we want to be more towards at the mid-range.
Yeah.
Alright, so let's go back to this. Do you remember what time we were at?
Arriving at watch point.
6 minutes something, I think.
Thank you. I always say it and then forget. Also, like right here, for example, it's good for it's like right here when we're just sitting right here. It'd just be a little bit better to just be down here, for example, where we're just closing that like 5-7 meters. We're just getting closer. It makes shots easier on us. And then as well, we're gonna notice right before we're gonna skip forwards a little bit and get back to where we were. And when we're just sitting back here, for example, like look at the distance that we're putting between ourselves and them, whereas we could probably do the same thing, but like, do this, right? Peek up here, right? Or, come around this side, or even just being like right here on the Moira, just be better than being all the way back here. Like we're kind of putting unnecessary distance between ourselves, right?
Yeah. And between like me and my team, which is why Messi killed me so
exactly.
easily.
Yep. And then we also just didn't notice the Mercy fly over here when, when she just zoomed past us. So that's awareness of paying attention to where is the enemy team, where is my team.
Yeah.
All right. And then it looks like we've been dying pretty frequently. That was our fourth death? Is that a fourth death?
Yeah, I think I died probably like 7 times this match.
Yeah.
That was a lot of times.
7 times. So I mean, 7 times honestly isn't too terrible. It's like kind of average, but it's mainly just deaths are still not the best, and we want to look to kind of fix our deaths and try to lessen them and make it so that we're not dying in terrible times. So like it's obviously worse to die, or it's worse to die first than it is to die last, because if you're dying last, then the fight's pretty much been lost. But it's also worse to die to stagger yourself dying last than to just die fast last. Excuse me. to do that, right?
Through the
Yeah.
So
eyes.
let's see how we use our dragon here, and then after we use our dragon, I think I'll just do strengths and weaknesses real quick, talk about those. Notice kind of more flicking while we're doing this.
Bitte. 10 seconds.
Is there a monkey behind us? Yes, there is. All right. No, did nobody notice that? Uh,
I definitely
uh,
didn't.
yeah, I just heard him leap there, and I'm like, All right, so monkey, where's monkey at? See where? Oh, wait, monkey's down over here. How did he get there? All right, so let's rewatch this. So we see monkey. Monkey leaps all the way this direction, and then we just forget about him. We
Yeah.
just forget that he exists there. And then you hear if you just heard that, I actually have my volume turned down a lot because I like to do that while I'm coaching so I can hear myself and you talk. But when I'm
Yeah.
playing, I have this up at like 80, and maybe you hear it just a lot better when I have it up at 80. But monkey, you hear him leap in there, all right? In a moment. All right, you hear him leap, and yet no one on our team seems to notice the fact that he's there. All right.
Yeah.
Um, and then therefore we could potentially get this stagger kill in between the fights here. All right. If we notice, we could like Sonic him and then like say, "Hey team, turn around," right, or something like that.
Yeah. I don't think I've noticed at this rank nobody ever talks. I say hi, nobody says
Yeah,
anything.
I mean, honestly, you don't don't have to focus too much on callouts until higher up. It's just that, yeah, like you said, not many people are gonna be focused on it. And then also, there's just gonna be a lot more stuff in your gameplay that's gonna be more important. So, admit, like you don't have to even make the call. But he was literally 1 HP. It looks like if you look at
Yeah.
their team. So, I mean,
Yeah.
in this situation, we could have just, or maybe that's just because Zen's looking at him, but we could have just,
It was-
peeked the corner and
yeah.
shot him.
Yeah.
How about that?
Alright, I like the timing with L2. Okay, so why don't we go over strengths and weaknesses? So, ability usage, honestly, pretty solid. I don't see too many problems with their ability usage. We're using them pretty well. Ultimates, pretty decent timing. Maybe a couple tiny things with them, but nothing that we've, that nothing big enough that we've gone over it, especially in comparison to some of the other things. Now, so those two categories out of like a priority list, both are sitting at like kind of a low priority of things to work on. Now, the bigger ones that we're getting into are mechanics, awareness, and positioning. Mechanics is probably looking like one of the bigger ones. Just making sure we're aiming at things correctly and making sure that we're not flicking around. So that one's maybe like a medium high for now. Positioning and awareness. Positioning wise, I think it's like a medium. We talked about a couple things, and maybe we'll talk about more. And then awareness is looking like a medium high, as then there's been a lot of staggers and on just us not noticing things surrounding us, and then that's resulting in deaths. So there's just those are the big ones that we're looking at the moment. Oh yeah, and then we're also on fire now, so you see a lot of flexing. So that's probably one of the bigger ones, just
Yeah.
for like that doesn't really fit into any of the categories, but it is just general climbing advice. Is just limit your hero pool, limit the accounts you're playing on, and then you'll start to see just natural growth. Even if you're not even if you're the exact same skill level, you're gonna notice more climbing, just because that's how the system works.
One.
Right.
Attackers incoming.
Teleportation portal open.
Escort the payload.
Now, we do have like a little bit of time left here. And you had a bunch of games. Do you maybe FAR isn't super high on your priority list to, maybe I should have asked that for Hanzo,
Yeah.
but maybe FAR isn't super high on your priority list to like review. Do you maybe have another character that you'd like to go over on a different VOD?
I'll have a look. I definitely appreciate the Hanzo one though, because I do
Mhm.
play a bit of Hanzo. Oh, here's one. Which one was that? Oasis. Yep. Damn, we got rolled that one.
Mhm.
So here we go. Oh, I need to turn off the music in my game. Yuck.
Ready for battle.
There we go.
Alright. So yep, I'm streaming that. We're number 7.
Yeah.
One.
Be right back.
Alright, back on the McCree.
Thank you.
Your guardian angel.
Alright, notice more of the flicking up. Notice the crosshair placement, kind of aiming at body level, looking at the floor and people. So just, more examples of that, but I don't want to focus too much on it. Nice kill. Nice. Okay, 2 kills. We can probably get aggro now. Honestly, in that situation, you just want to go force and get kills. Leave the point to your team. I think we turned around because I think there's a person on point. But once we see all of them leave, just we want to be with them. We can roll in to get aggro because we want to get these stagger kills. That like we said, how staggering's bad. We want to get the enemy team to do that, and then as well as that, we can get ult charge and whatnot.
Yeah.
Much obliged.
Make sure not walking into fire strikes. That was a hard one for me to get out of when I was trying to work on my gameplay. I'd keep accidentally doing that up at like a GM level.
Yeah, I do that a lot. I like try to go away from it, and I'm like, oh, that's not the right way.
Yeah, just hitting more shots is probably gonna be really helpful for us to learn.
Yeah.
Make sure we're under. Okay, so a couple different things here. First off, we're being a little bit passive here. So there's, I've noticed that this is another one that goes into mechanics, and it's not, honestly, it's not the biggest thing, but it's also paired in with the fact that we have a ton of other mechanics things too. But when it comes to just us going about our stuff, we struggle a little bit with what you call actions per minute of just making sure that we're doing things and being efficient with our time. So if you compare a GM player to a bronze player, right? A GM player is going to be efficient with like pretty much every single second of their time. Well, not all the time, but they're going to be efficient with as much as possible, and they're going to be constantly doing something. But if you look at a bronze player's gameplay, they might go, pew pew pew, right? And then they just stop shooting randomly for 5 seconds, and they're going to go pew pew pew. Oh, look at the pretty birdies flying around, and then oh yeah, I'm in a fight, right? And they go pew pew pew, right? It's just they kind of take random pauses when it's not necessary, and you see that a little bit with our gameplay, where sometimes we just take pauses out of our gameplay. So like here, we're gonna shoot the Moira, and then we're gonna pause randomly, where we go shoot shoot shoot, pause pause pause. Okay, now we're rolling in and we're doing something, right? So it's just it's that little bit of a pause, and that's happened, like, it's not 5 seconds, but it's happening pretty consistently, where we'll go times where we could have been doing something, not doing something, right?
Yeah.
Flashbang, make sure staying within range of it. We also roll into a super aggressive out in the open positioning. Now, we haven't talked in depth about this, but just keep in mind, positioning wise, that good positioning is the usage of cover, whereas bad positioning is the absence of cover. Right now we have an absence of cover. There's nowhere where we can go to duck around in the corner. But for example, let's say we were like right here. Well, now we get the exact same line of sight on everybody, but it takes us half of a second to do this, right? It's a lot faster, and therefore you can't shoot through solid objects, and we're safe, right? But where we're at right now means that we die, right? If they start shooting at us.
Yeah.
And then we do die because they start shooting at us, right? So you just got way too aggressive there. And then therefore we died, and then deaths obviously aren't very good. Okay. We want to make sure that we're not we're kind of constantly rolling into dangerous situations. So first off, we got to acknowledge the fact that there's a Hanzo right there, and Hanzo looks at us, right? And then there's a McCree right there, and McCree knows we're here, right? Yet we're rolling into the room where McCree was just shooting at us from, right? We're kind of, it's not really the best decision to make unless we're looking for the flashbang, which it seems like we're really pretty slow to react with the flashbang there, right? It kind of doesn't seem like that was our intention. Which just means that we want to, again, be paying attention and be making a better decision there. Comes in at awareness. Alright, and then that results in a death. Just want to make sure we're not dying, because those deaths are putting us in spawn for 10 seconds to respawn, and then also it's a 10-second walk back, and like we discussed before, it's putting our team at a big disadvantage, which can lead to lost fights, right, if we're doing that. Right now, alright. Pretty solid. Yep, I like the High Noon. High Noon's honestly looked pretty solid. Like, ultimates have been looking pretty solid. All right, we peaked high noon unnecessarily. Deaths are happening a lot. So why don't we just it happened? Maybe it wasn't as terrible last game, but this is definitely pretty bad. Because we've died like 3 times in 3 minutes, or maybe 4 times. I can't remember. I think 3 times. Just you want to make sure that we're not dying so frequently, because when you, like we just said, when you die, you lose 20 seconds of gameplay. That means that in that 3 deaths that we just died, we wasted an entire minute of gameplay, right? On top of that, we're putting our team at a disadvantage, so that is our active participation in losing the fight, or at least putting our potential losing of the fight. So we want to make sure that we are not dying, so that we can actually participate and have a positive impact. And therefore this death is a mistake and means we want to pay attention to it. There's a couple different ways that you could, what reasons why you could die. You could have misused your abilities by for example, rolling into their team. We could be too aggressive, for example, rolling into their team. We could be out of position, for example, rolling into their team. And sorry, and we could also
I understand.
and we could also have a lack of awareness, like walking into a high noon, right?
Yeah.
So that's just and so here this would be a combination of lack of awareness as well as bad positioning, right? If we hear the high noon happening, which comes down to audio awareness and keeping our ears open and paying attention, then we're not
Yeah.
walking to where McCree can shoot us.
I remember hearing it as well. I'm like, oh, where is he? And then I picked him. I'm like, oh, there he is. And then I died.
And use your roll to reload faster than a normal reload is going to be. Right, roll has 3 different purposes. You can use roll to for movement speed to get somewhere faster. You can use roll to dodge something, like an attack, and you can also use roll to reload if you're trying to shoot fast. This would be a good situation to just, if you run out of ammo and you flash Reinhardt and he's pretty low HP, just flash, roll, or roll and then flash, and then boom, you can kill him. Right. Where there we just do a full reload, and then we roll, so it's a delayed roll. We're also just standing smack dab in the middle of the open, which is I would imagine is going to get us killed here in a moment. So positioning,
Yeah.
all right, and then more deaths. So that's number 4.
Back in the saddle again. That'll get it done.
We still need you. Barriers on this will heal you.
All right. Here we do a pretty wide peak. Like so. In this instance, I probably say you just find more success from like coming in here, because, or like even if you wanted to, like maybe you didn't want them to see you here, maybe you come through here and then sneak up like right here, like because now we're like right next to him. We have flashbangs, so we can just go shoot, flashbang, shoot, or flashbang right click or whatever, and then we have a health pack in here, and we can roll backwards to get back to our team if we need to. We're a lot closer to our team. Here we're just a little bit far away from them, like so you can just see the range that which we're at, which just makes it slightly harder to get the kill. And then you see that there you see his McCree's fall off is that we landed 3 shots, which normally would kill him, but because we're too far away, it actually takes 4 shots, right? So that's where you see the range of McCree again.
Team Valhalla. Hail the Mahal. I've sighted the enemy. EMP activated. I will rebuild you.
Yeah, really nice. Kind of rolled on the open there. Alright, there we have lost the fight. We have 2 people alive, and we're trying to run away, and therefore we're going to stagger ourselves yet again, which we would probably find a lot more value out of just letting them kill us, because in this position it's very unlikely that we get back to our team spawn and with our team and group up with them, so we might as well just let them kill us, because here we're just going to stagger ourselves, and then let's after we stagger ourselves, let's kind of look. Okay, well now we get a kill because they were dumb, right? But that's not always going to happen. Now let's look at us
Yeah.
coming. Let's say we're coming out of spawn, right? Let's take a look at where our team's at. So we're coming out of spawn, and our team is all the way up here, right? Which means that if they
Yeah,
continue,
already that.
exactly right. Let's say they continue to walk forwards. Well, now they're taking a fight while they're now new in Zarya, right? Which
Yeah.
means that us and Zarya probably shouldn't have staggered, because that means that we would be with our team. And at the very least, even if they wait for us, we've just wasted time that we could be grouping up and pushing, right? So staggering's looking like another thing to work on, which actually, that goes into awareness, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, and then now the fight, like we just discussed, the fight has begun and ended before we've actually gotten here. Make sure when we're trying to go in a sneaky flank that we're not jumping, because it actually makes us louder. And then you can also add in like crouch spams if you would like, but just especially make sure you're not jumping if we're trying to be sneaky.
Easy.
Okay, flashbangs actually, now I'm taking more of a look at it, are looking like they need a little bit more work, as we're missing quite a few of them, especially in this game rather than last game. So we want to make sure we're actually landing those to get effective kills. If you needed to there, just actually don't start shooting at them here. What we can do is just uh, is once we get here, just roll up to him, flashbang him, kill him. Right? We don't need to shoot at him and then flashbang, or we can just walk up closer to shoot at him and then flashbang, so he has less time to react to it. We just don't want to be putting ourselves in situations where he can escape us. This also probably isn't a very good idea to high noon after we've drawn the attention from everyone.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. And then we got one kill and died, so not on DPS it's not usually or at least almost never gonna be the best value to be going one-on-one, right? 1 KD is not a good on a DPS, and then there we died 5 times in 5 minutes, so not a
Yeah.
great death rate to have. Actually, no, wait, was it 6 times? I think it's 6 times actually. So 6 times in 5 minutes, not the best death rate to have, which means that was an entire 2 minutes of gameplay that we, in that individual round, 2 minutes of time that we could have been participating, right?
Yeah. It's like I was dead the whole time.
Yep.
Pretty much like 80% of the time when I
Mhm.
could have been fighting.
And notice kind of make sure that when we're doing longer flanks or longer rotations. Now I don't have any problem with taking top right, but we don't want it to be in the middle of the fight. Preferably, what would happen is we'd come, we'd walk out of spawn and immediately go top right. But here, what we do is we actually let the fight begin and then we walk top right. Well, and then look what's happening is both Reinhardts are on top of each other brawling. The fight has begun, yet we're in the middle of a rotation. So now we're essentially, for a good like 5-10 seconds, we're putting our team at an active disadvantage where we're down a person, which can potentially lose us the fight, right?
Yeah.
So this is just, this kind of gets an action, a little bit of actions per minute, but then also just positioning of don't rotate positions in the middle of a fight if it's a long one.
Okay.
But besides that, this is a fine position to be in.
Just what the doctor ordered. Much better.
And you got a little bit aggressive there, right? Okay, so
Yeah.
here again, notice how we kind of lost this, right? In this situation where we have 4 people alive here, but this it's a 4v5, but we're kind of split up, and I think they still have the big advantage here. It's not necessarily lost, but we kind of like leap in here, so it'd probably be much better if we just, again, positioning wise, instead of wide peeking. So this is a wide peek when we go really, really far away from the cover, but instead we can just kind of chill here and go pew pew, shoot the McCree, maybe pick the Hanzo too, and then boom, we can just go like this and we're out. But instead we kind of jump in and leap in, and then to bad positioning, and then therefore we die, right? And we also kind of like miss the jump there, and then we're dead.
Yeah. I haven't really watched a lot of my own gameplay, but now that I'm watching it, I'm noticing a lot of things
Yep.
as well, which is really helpful. Maybe I should watch my own gameplay a bit more.
Yep. Just when you are, just make sure you're watching for the biggest thing to self-improvement, which like I self-improved while I played, but like I never watched too much of my gameplay, but like I would just do it while I play. Is you look for mistakes, right? You look for the solution to the mistake, and then you try to apply that, right? So and a good example is deaths, right? When you die, you think, okay, why did I die, right? What are those 4 things that we mentioned? Was the reason for our death? Were we out of position, too aggressive, used our abilities wrong, right? Not aware, and then what would be the solution? So if we're out of position, where could I have stood better? If I misused my abilities, how could I have used it better, right? So we're just looking for the solution or what we could have done instead, and then finally you're looking to apply that in your actual gameplay, right? So you can do that just follow that. That's literally how I essentially go through and coach people. Is I go through that process and go, okay, because of my knowledge of the game, I know that was a mistake. He shouldn't have done that. Now I'm going to explain why it was a mistake and how he can fix it, right? And then that's just basically the coaching and learning process.
Yeah.
All right. That one, yeah, not much we got a little bit aggressive when we had like a Zarya staring at us, but besides that, not too much we could do against the grab unless we're ult tracking it, which is out of our current skill level. All right.
When do you think alt tracking is like important to learn?
I mean, it's important to learn at every rank, but I mean, it's just a pretty advanced thing, and there's going to be
Yeah.
more important things to go over. So, I probably would say that I don't usually go over it with people unless they're like diamond. Usually.
Yeah.
Don't move.
All right. So here on the Hanzo, honestly pretty decent, but don't keep getting aggressive when you don't have a way, like when you've revealed your position, right? This is no longer a surprise advantage. They all know where we're at
Yeah.
now, right? Because we just rolled in here, flash right clicks. They see Hanzo died, so anyone who's in the general vicinity, and we see McCree like right there.
Yeah.
We know that we've just revealed our positions. We're also down both of our abilities and we're reloading. So at the moment,
Yeah.
McCree is the clear advantage here, and yet we kind of keep pushing in. Whereas let's say we just back straight up. Well, now we can just come back here, shoot at the Moira right now, shoot at these guys, and then maybe by the time McCree gets to us, we might even have our abilities back, right? But here we just
Yeah.
kind of keep pushing in when probably shouldn't have. So that was just over aggression. Maybe shouldn't have gone that far. And then again, dying way too much, which comes into survivability and making sure that we're staying alive more often.
Yeah.
All right. Now we're gonna leave here and go to practice range. So now we're gonna do a quick review, go over the main points, and then wrap up the session from there.
Sweet.
All right. So McCree,
Justice ain't gonna
roll.
stand
Make sure we're using it to reload. Right. Just it has 3 uses: movement, reload, and dodging. Besides that, not too much else. Flashbang, make sure we're landing it a little bit more consistently, because sometimes we're just completely whiffing it and it's not doing very much. So make sure we're just concentrating on landing it. Right. Besides that, not too much else. Ultimate usage on it. I think it's one of those things where if you came back in future sessions and you've improved on the other things, it might show it, and especially if you've climbed, you might see. We might talk a little bit more on ult usage, because I don't think it was perfect, but I think it's kind of overshadowed by some of the other things in other areas where we are doing a little bit worse in. So therefore, High Noon, we didn't talk too much about ultimates, though that potentially is content for the future. So honestly, not too big of a thing for now. Now, where we get into a lot of stuff is the other ones. So mechanics, a lot of different things. So first off, make sure we're not doing this up and down flick, where we're not doing this. This is like a weird aim style, which is going to make it very difficult to hit shots and just make it harder to hit shots unnecessarily. Instead, after like the first flick to the person, stay on the target so that we can hit targets easier. On top of that, make sure aiming at head level, right, that we're not, so that the shots become easier, right? Keep crosshair placement, aiming head level, also aiming where we know people are going to be. On from there, make sure that we are, constantly doing something, so actions per minute, making sure that we're not taking lulls or just not doing very much. So make sure we're constantly trying to do something. And then finally, make sure we're not swapping targets constantly. We're not, just coming in here and then we're going, oh, pew, and then pew, and then pew, and then pew, and then we're not just constantly swapping targets, but we're sticking on one thing until it's dead, sticking on the next thing until it's dead, right? And we're going one by one, and then you can swap if you have a reason to swap, but don't swap if you don't have a reason to swap, right? And then I think that is it for mechanics. Now moving on to positioning, right? Positioning wise, a couple different things. First off, don't stand out in the open. That actually happened I probably should have gone a little bit more in depth on that, but we didn't. But in any case, just know, bad positioning out when we're over here, it takes us 1, 2, 3 seconds to get behind cover, but when we're right here, it takes us half of a second, right? Therefore, good positioning is the usage of cover, whereas bad positioning is the absence of cover, right? On top of that, let's see what else was there. Make sure we're staying within range, where we're not going too, especially we're not going too far, we're not going too close. So on Hanzo and McCree, we'd kind of have our moments where we'd be way too close and we'd be way too far, right? Make sure we're being in the middle. Roughly 15 meters to 30 meters. Hanzo can be a little tiny bit more flexible. McCree, I honestly would say, is slightly closer because he wants to get value of this flashbang, whereas Hanzo's a slightly further. So maybe I would say like McCree is 15 to 30. Or even like 10 meters to 30 or something like that. Whereas Hanzo is kind of like 20 to 35, roughly.
Yeah.
Just how the characters work. Make sure we're sticking roughly within that whenever possible. On from that, I don't think there was too much. Make sure we're not accidentally dropping off from high ground, so we're not dying. Make sure we're not walking out in the open, and then that's pretty much it. Now moving on to awareness. Couple different things. First off, pay attention to our health bar when we are low. Make sure we're requesting healing, and then we're also just not sitting at low HP, but we're going to our supports, so we're grabbing health pack. We're not sitting low, which happened a couple of times. Make sure we're paying attention to a couple other things. Pay attention to kill feed, right? Know whether or not you're winning or losing fights. That came up quite a bit. So just as a reminder, 1 to 2 is advantage or disadvantage. You play aggressive or passively accordingly. 2 to 3 is a won or lost fight, and you don't use ults in a won or lost fight, and you also look to get super aggressive in a won fight, or you look in a lost fight, you look to get out if possible, or let them kill you. That was one of the bigger ones, as we staggered a lot, right? Make sure that's going to stop us from staggering ourselves, right? On from there, also just paying attention to in-game where is my team at and where's the enemy team at, as there are a couple times where we just got caught off guard, like when there was a monkey hiding in our tunnels, and when there was a Mercy who was like right next to us, and just a couple times where people snuck up on us and we didn't know where they were. Like, make sure we're paying attention to our audio cues as well, so like McCree high nooning, and then make sure we're also paying attention to kill feed, or it's not kill feed, to tab and and team compositions, right? That way we're not being caught off guard when monkey dives us, right? Press tab in between every single fight. It's gonna get you into good habits of paying attention and being aware. And then make sure we're also not staggering, or sorry, make sure we are surviving more. So survivability, right? Making sure we're not dying all the time. That was another pretty big one. So we're not dying constantly. Was there? I think that honestly that one was a big mix of everything, just dying constantly. I think most of the time it was because we were getting too aggressive, though it was a combination of aggressiveness, of misuse, like it was pretty much all 4, just a mix of them. So we'll have it as its own separate category. So main points, what do we want to work on? Number 1, I'm going to put at mechanics. Number 2, I'm going to put at awareness. Number 3, I'm going to put at survivability. Number 4, I'm going to put at positioning. Number 5, ability usage, and then number 6, our ultimate usage. Honestly, ability usage and ultimate usage, not a ton of work. You can honestly not really focus on those too much, and then just make sure you're putting a lot of effort into the other ones, right? Any questions about anything we've talked about?
No, I think you've gone over pretty much everything. Lot to work on. I think I got the notes thing as well.
Yep.
Is that right?